All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next session for Wakelet Community Week 2023. This is a PD session that I'm super jazzed about, really excited, because I get to introduce and work alongside two people that I really enjoy and that I just met in person for the first time back at NCCE in Seattle. So I get to work with Kristen and Joe Merrill today, two educators, fourth grade and first grade teacher, a combined 20 years of education experience. They've worked and done some excellent books, really focused on implementing some instructive technologies that help bring the interactive atmosphere to the classroom. But before we get started and bring Joe and Kristen onto the stage, just want to clarify a couple things for our session before we get started. Remind you first off about the competition. So if you are participating in this session, and of course you're commenting on the side during this broadcast, make sure you take those learnings and share that throughout the social media avenue of your choice, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. But make sure you share learning insights, any takeaways. Make sure you tag hashtag Wakelet Community Week, tag at Wakelet for your chance to win some awesome prizes, swag packs, some gift cards for experiences, and the big prize, of course, a trip to ISTE 2024. This is being recorded, so if you do come late or you can't catch all of this, you can replay this back on our YouTube channel later on. And our certificate link will be provided later on at the end of this session, along with that amazing ticket stub to show that you were here, that you can share out on socials, and all of the materials and resources from today's session will be shared as well. And with all of that out of the way, it is, without any further ado, Joe and Kristen, I'm excited to bring you up to the main screen and and get it.
What's up, Ryan?
How are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Like I said, I'm really excited to have you here. It was great meeting you for the very first time in person. And I know the crowd is here that's gathered is ready to learn from you.
Yeah, we saw some familiar faces in the crowd. We saw our friend Greg. What's up, Greg? It's good to see you. Lots of people from NCCE.
I just love seeing everyone that logs in. I saw like Canada. I saw Egypt, Croatia. Like that's what I just love when we do anything. We get to share about Wakelet because the community is literally everywhere.
Huge. It's such like a huge global community. It's so awesome that everybody comes together. And hopefully, this goes for much longer than just a week. And we can share these ideas together. So we're really excited to be with you guys today. As Ryan had mentioned, I'm Joe. I'm a first grade teacher.
And I'm Kristen. I'm a fourth grade teacher.
And we're basically from as far on the southwest coast of Florida as possible. It's very hot and already summer here. So we're very happy to be indoors and cool down for a bit and share some time with you guys. So we're going to be talking today about different ways you can use Wakelet to enhance your elementary classroom. This is specifically targeting ideas, and we really thought through what ideas teachers have to do on a normal everyday basis. And so we really targeted things that you're already doing, and hopefully we're going to try to show you how you can use Wakelet to basically take those ideas beyond what you're already doing.
Yeah, because we know as teachers that a lot of times there are a list of non-negotiables and things that we have to teach, sometimes things we have to teach from. And so whenever we can integrate some of these more interactive platforms like Wakelet in a way that just enhances the learning on top of what we already have to do, it ultimately will save us time.
And if you have any questions throughout this whole presentation, please don't feel free to ask in the comments, or you can reach out to us on social. We're at Merrils EDU, 2 R's, 2 L's. Because
there's two of us.
And we'll be happy to get those to you. But without any further ado,
let's get started.
Ready? So obviously we have a plethora of things that we have to do on a daily basis.
That's a very big word for
plethora.
I know, like for a lot of people, that's a big word. All right. There are a lot of ways that you can use Wakelet. And so as we go throughout the presentation, we're going to kind of talk about these ways first, and then we're going to share some more direct, like integrated ways that you could use Wakelet. So maybe if you're new to Wakelet or maybe new to integrating it into your classroom, you could pick one of these things that maybe you take away to try with your students the next time you can. I always want to say before we start, we pride ourselves in trying to give away as much information as we can and as many resources, but there's no way that you could use all of them and it can get overwhelming. So, even if you just take one or two ideas away that you could start with, and then you could revisit the presentation at a later date and take more.
Yeah, it's on demand. So
yeah, so these things that you see on our screen, we're going to kind of go through a little bit. and just talk about the benefits of how Wakelet can enhance them. And then we'll go into some ideas.
So let's talk about the first one.
Okay.
Communication. Communication is key, and it's really important that you're communicating with your families if you're an elementary teacher or really any teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Wakelet does that very, very well. You can create a class newsletter where you push out that content in the form of almost like a class website, and you can share that with your families. But there's something even better about all that.
Well, I know what you want me to say, but I know there's a lot of things. Okay, so Microsoft's Immersive Reader is embedded into Wakelet, which integration and embedding, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's there for you to use, which basically essentially like allows you to translate anything that you type in your newsletter into like a lot of languages. I don't even know what they're up to now, hundreds, so many languages. And so you share this file, this link, this QR code, however you choose to do it, and then your parents can keep it, and you can choose to send out a new one each week with a new link, or you can just like add to it or refresh and change. People have opinions on this, I've learned. If you don't care as much about curating it, and then your parents can have it and change the language. And so for me, it's accessible, especially if I live in a space where there's a lot of students immigrating in and out, or maybe just I have a very culturally rich demographic, and I have a lot of different languages. To me, parents really do want to help their kids, and they want to be a part of the classroom. And I feel like with so many of the restrictions and the legislations and things that come down, all it's doing is kind of pushing our parents out. And so being able to communicate on the most basic level of just like what we're doing and how you can help, and being able to translate that is a really big deal.
And all of what you're seeing is actually created right within Wakelet. And if you would like to grab yourself a template of this, you can scan that QR code, and there's a whole list of newsletters there for free for you guys. So feel free to scan that, or you can visit that bit.ly link below. And again, if you miss it, watch it on demand.
You're going to get the presentation. It's going to be attached.
Next up, we're going to be talking about lesson planning. All teachers have lesson plan, but lesson planning with Wakelet?
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of my very first ways I ever used Wakelet, because I don't know, we're very different when it comes to ed tech. He will find something, and then the next day he'll just go into his classroom and jump in with the kids and just do it. And I more so like to use the app or the tool and figure out how it works before I release my kids to do it. Just my personality. And so I actually started using Wakelet for the very first time for lesson planning. I've taught fourth grade for 16 years now. And so everything just kind of sits in my head. But when you have a new teammate or someone new to the school, it's really hard to share all the things that you have. It can be really overwhelming. Sometimes you have teammates who like things on paper or have PDFs of things. Sometimes you have people who just take pictures of things that they like. And so Wakelet's perfect because it allows you to kind of organize your space. Now I teach language arts, but you could do it for math or science. You could do it however you want. Share that link, collaborate with one another, and everybody start putting ideas and things in for different standards. Maybe even prior to a new plan. You can sit down, you can look at everyone's shared. People can choose to use whatever they want. And then the best part is you have it for the next year. So you can go back and say, oh, what did I do? What did I use? What worked? What didn't work? Right. And then you can keep adding. And hopefully if you get to stay in one space long enough, that it will grow and it'll become a really great resource that you can use yourself, and then that you can share with people who come in and out, on your team.
One thing I've seen that you do that's really, really cool on here is you've even put books on these collections too. So if you have a particular standard that's talking about, let's just say sequence of events, you can tie in books and make sure those books are on those lesson plans as well. So that way, when those standards do come up again, then you have that information and that context and it's ready to go.
Yeah, you can also put in tweets. So sometimes if I tweet something out or I see someone else's tweet about an idea that I think might work in my content, I can take that and I'll just drop that in too as an idea or as a reminder.
I saw in the comments that the link isn't working. I wonder if it's because there's too many people on the presentation. So if that's the case, we'll try to get this to you guys.
We'll get it to you. Don't worry. We'll get it.
We'll tweet it out at the end. How about that?
We'll tweet it. We'll put it on our list of resources. We'll save it as a PDF. Wakelet gives us all sorts of opportunities.
Exactly.
We'll figure it out.
We'll make sure that
everyone will get it.
All right. Differentiation is also very simple with Wakelet. And, that's a big thing in education is making sure that we're delivering content in the ways that our students are able to meet, but also at the same time challenging them, right? And going about that is a little bit difficult when you're really trying to plan it out the right way. So Wakelet makes that simple. You can copy collections very easily. So let's just say, for example, you've got your whole collection that has the content that you want the class to cover, and maybe you just tweak some of the directions and how the directions are delivered.
Or how many problems they have to answer or do, or right? Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can just quickly copy and paste those different collections, and those still get shared out. And the best part about it all is that the kids think they're all in the same thing. They don't even realize that maybe this group over here is working on a different link than this group over here is. And they all think they're accomplishing the same task. So you're really knocking out two birds with one stone there. Now, next up, we're going to talk about streamlining content. You know, as a first grade teacher, it's very important to me that I keep track of all of my assignments, and that way my students get from one place to the next with the least amount of clicks as possible. So I really want to make sure that when I have content that I want them to work on, that they're going from place to place quickly and efficiently and not getting distracted in the process.
I was going to say, this has kind of worked really well. Like if you have an LMS or something that you have to use, Wakelet's a great way. We have that, like, you know, there's certain platforms that our district just really like our kids to be on and using. And in the middle and high school, it works really well. But like for 6-year-olds, it's not necessarily as accessible or easy. So embedding a Wakelet or dropping something in where they literally are right there and don't have to click 7 buttons or 7 links or type in a URL, it saves time. And it also saves that cognitive load. You know, when you have those kids and they're there, I mean, they struggle sometimes with how to spell something, and you know who they are, and they take 10 minutes just to get to where you're asking. They're done. Right. They're so frustrated and over, and they haven't even started the assignment, you know. And so streamlining things is time efficient, and it's also just good for kids and getting them where they need to be.
Yeah, and so Wakelet does a really great job of making that easy to do. And so you can embed Wakelet collections just about anywhere. And so one of the things that we love is just the possibilities there of where you can put these different types of Wakelet collections. So you can put Wakelet collections, like we said, in just about everywhere, but there's a few of these that we're going to be going through and we're going to be highlighting. And hopefully these will be ways that maybe you thought like, oh, I haven't thought about using it that way. I already used this application. I never thought about that.
That's really key too. Like when you're really embedded in using one thing, and it's hard to kind of like branch out, learn something totally new, but if it can kind of work with what you already know, it makes it a really easy place to kind of try first.
Exactly. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is Nearpod. Nearpod with Wakelet is probably not something that most people would have thought about, but it's quite possible, because if you have a Nearpod presentation going, you can use Wakelet to collect responses from students collaboratively. And one thing that we do is we just drop that link right into the the Nearpod presentation. And then the kids, when they're going through the Nearpod, they click on that link, and then boom, there they have their Wakelet collection. They can go ahead and they can add different content right into that collaborative board.
Which we need to say, Nearpod has a collaborative board, right? It's not like we're trying to add something it doesn't have, but like, let's think of like research. When you started one place, but then you really want to go through Nearpod and either direct their time on how much they use something, or, you know, the 3D features. There's some really cool features of Nearpod, and then being able to mesh them and bring them back to where you already started, so it's not in 2 different places. That's really where you win.
And I'm glad that you said that. But you know what Nearpod's collaborative boards don't have, though? Some of the Canva integrations and those other things.
I was trying to be nice.
I know,
okay.
But there's a reason why
we're gonna get there.
We'll get there. The OneNote integration is probably one of the coolest integrations.
And I just want to say, I know we said we're doing elementary, but like if you teach middle or high school, OneNote really is a great tool that you can use with the older grades. And so some of these things could very easily be modified, I think, how you use them in the classroom.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for me within first grade, I would probably use this more as like, I'm the teacher. Now I'm collecting the resources from the kids and putting these all in one spot. This probably wouldn't be something that the kids would do, but this would be something more for the teacher. And so what you do is you would take the links from those Wakelet collections, you would drop them into a OneNote. And the cool thing about this is it's a live embed.
Yeah.
So any changes that take place are going to automatically populate right within the OneNote.
I'm the queen of live embed, because I very rarely ever have anything completely planned out, and I always like to pivot with my kids. And so sometimes when something changes and you need to change something, I hate relinking and I hate figuring out where I put the thing. Nope, love this. Yeah,
and we just saw a question in the comment. The question is, how can you do that? Well, it's simple. You take the smart link and you just paste it right onto OneNote, and boom, it automatically populates it.
Just like that.
It's just a copy and paste. That's all it is.
OneNote does it for you.
Yeah, OneNote does it all for you, which is pretty awesome. How can you copy the Wakelet collection to the OneNote notebook? Again, that's just copy and paste. You go to the share option on Wakelet. You go down to the link, the copy link, and then you just paste it right onto there, and boom, it'll automatically appear. All right, next up, Seesaw. We were talking about LMSs before, and some people use Seesaw for an LMS. I actually like to use it for communication purposes and for creativity purposes with my first graders, but you can use Wakelet within Seesaw too. And if you want, you can create an assignment, copy that link from the Wakelet, and use that in the assignment on Seesaw. And now your kids are working collaboratively on Seesaw through Wakelet. Think about that for a second.
And it could be shared later with parents, and
Exactly.
you lose like the having to like share things twice. Like I do that a lot. Like we'll make something, and then I'm kind of the one that has to then share it out because of where it's housed. And so now it's all in one place. They work on it, you revise it, you whatever, and then you share it out when it's all done.
Yeah, and so for example, you could be working on something like right here where we're working on text features, and the kids are going on and they're finding different text features. Very simply, just copying and pasting, easy, right? And again, you can keep track of who's submitting what too. Canvas. Many people use Canvas out there. Don't go like
well,
that.
It's just hard for littles to sometimes. That's why I love the embed. Like that's
Right.
why.
Yeah, and so a lot of times when you think of Canvas, you're thinking of higher education. You're thinking of high school, middle school, but sometimes littles are using it. And so the easiest way to go about doing that is that embed feature, right? You just take that embed from Wakelet, you put that right into Canvas, and it does a really nice job of populating those different responses right within your Canvas page. And so this is probably the go-to way to use, Canvas. And so making sure you embed all those things, not just with Wakelet, with any other app, right? And it's by far my favorite way to use Canvas. And I saw there was a comment too. I agree, Canvas is hard for those. Yeah, it absolutely
is. And we've had to learn how to use it, especially with remote learning and everything. And for us, creating pages and adding embeds has been a lifesaver. And so that's one of our top 5 things when we look for new tools. Can it be embedded? Because then we can put it on a page. The kids go right to their page. They're learning how to use the structure of Canvas, and they go in, but then it's right there. We don't have to click out. We don't have to put any more passwords in. And so the live embed for us is, one of the most important features, I would say, when using a tool. And for reasons like that.
So we talked about newsletters. We talked about lesson planning. We talked about a little bit about differentiation and streamlining. But next up is documenting progress, right? How do we keep track of what our students are doing? And well, if you stop and think about it, Wakelet does a pretty good job of that too. You can put all kinds of different applications that you're probably already using in your classroom right into Wakelet. There's lots to choose from. I'm sure that you guys are probably using one, if not more than one of these apps in your classroom right now. But have you ever thought about maybe dropping these into a Wakelet collection?
Well, and talking to, documenting progress that's like the teacher. That's what you want to tell your admin, like I'm documenting progress. But it's also making learning authentic, right? And so when you work somewhere like Adobe or Flip or Book Creator or Jamboard and it just sits there and no one sees it.
What's the point of that?
But, very quickly students are going to learn, like my son has learned he's learned how to do that, right? Like, I just do the first slide, Mom, and then she's not going to look at the rest of it. It doesn't matter. And so having that authenticity of letting them know that, yes, I'm looking and I want to see your progress and what you're learning, but it's also important. And what you do is important. And the way you think is important. And the way you design is important. And getting that out into a Wakelet, whether that Wakelet's being shared with the class, whether it's being shared at the school level, whether it's being shared with their parents, whether I saw someone post in the comments about as a portfolio, it's phenomenal, right? Showing them that there's value in what they're learning and how they're learning and how they're reflecting and processing. Like, to me, that's really what you want to document.
And I think that's the nail right there. Is that the nail on the head? Is that it can be shared beyond what you're just doing in the classroom, right? No matter what you want to do with it, it can be shared. And so that's what makes it so powerful. Now, we're going to go through a couple of these examples and how you could be using these. And some of these aren't even on here. So let's talk about the first one with Epic. And with Epic, if you're not familiar with that, Epic is basically it's a library, digital library for students to read from. And this is really cool because my kids love using this app Smash. What they'll do is, these is all done by first graders.
Look how interesting and Epic does such a great job of making reading fun and exciting. And so I have to give a shout out to Epic too. Like, being and Wakelet being able to integrate with it is really powerful.
Yeah. So all you're doing is, this particular example, we're basically gathering research about sea turtles, trying to pick up facts along the way with what we're reading already in our books. And the kids are going about doing so by using Wakelet. They're curating all that information that they find that they think is important. And then what they'll do is they'll kind of sort through this, figure out what is really truly important, maybe what's not quite as relevant. And then they'll take that and use that in their writing, in other places with their learning. And so it's just a really great way to kind of organize all the brainstorming that's going on in the beginning of a process.
Yeah, and as a teacher, you can decide, like, you could have it open like this, and then you could go in later with the kids sitting down and rearrange it and organize it into like relevant and non-relevant. You could have it sorted by the things that you're going to be reading or writing about. And so like Wakelet gives you that freedom. It's not just like you post it up there. It has to be the same way every time. And you can go back in and edit it. Like, so someone was talking about like revision is so important and feedback is so important. It's really powerful to sit down with the kids and be like, wow, look at this. Let's read through this. Like, do you want to write about that? Shut that. No, that doesn't go in there. Yeah, let's get that out of there. Right. Like using what they're creating and curating to learn from, again, just adds to that value.
And pro tip here, I learned this actually with my first graders. If you have kids that are posting the same thing, maybe like they took the same picture or maybe they post the same thing twice, tell them not to do that. Just add the reaction on the first post. And then that shows them that, oh, I had that same idea. So
yes, and I agree. Wakelet and Epic App Smash could be a whole presentation. You are right. Yes, there's so much more you can do with it.
All right, let's talk about Flip. We love Flip. Now, this example's really just for teachers because you can go about, remember those newsletters we were talking about earlier? Well, the same thing could be done with our reading groups, right? Everybody has reading groups. Now you can take your Flip videos that you've recorded and drop them into a Wakelet collection and give out specific differentiated instruction for that particular group. How easy is that? Remember how we were talking about the differentiation? See how it's all coming together?
You could do like centers and like your week's activities are there. This is really important too, just on the accessibility level of, having a space for students to listen to directions again, students who aren't in the classroom or absent. It's a lot when you're teaching and then you have to help a student who came in late, or it's, or the kid who wasn't there, or so it's all in one place. You'd be like, here's the link, here's what we've missed, get started. And the ability to have that video like you have in Flip on Wakelet is really cool.
And students can do this as well. If you have a student who's posted a video, they can take that same link and they can share it right into a Wakelet collection. And then that video can also appear right within that Wakelet collection too. So
yeah, good question in the chat. I believe any time constraints that apps would have, like Epic, will still be in place with your Wakelet. So same thing with Flip, you can use anytime, anywhere. So this could be done after hours, but Epic would probably most likely, you would only be able to get into Epic, but the screenshots and things that the kids would have taken, those would be able to be accessible at any time.
And I know you might be thinking, well, I watched Wakelet live yesterday. We can do videos soon in Wakelet too. That's going to be huge. Don't get us wrong. But sometimes you have that content that's already living in Flip and you want to bring it over.
Or you have students who already know how to use the one. And so sometimes using the platform they're already familiar with is a great way to get them used to. Like, you don't want to get brand new students to Wakelet saying, okay, jump into Wakelet and make this and make a video and do that. Like, it gets really overwhelming. And so if you just start using Wakelet and we're just going to use it to curate, we're just going to use it to comment, and then we're going to learn how to upload to it, and then we're going to learn how to link to it, you can gradually build in those skills. And so it might be a good way. Or if you have a teammate who doesn't use Wakelet, but they use Flip, you could be like, okay, cool. I can get those kids using the Flip into the Wakelet, and then maybe I can show the other teacher and teach the kids how to do it. And that kind of collaboration is powerful too.
Yeah. And, sometimes we have students who are a little shy and reluctant, and maybe they don't want their face on camera. This is for them. This was really cool. If you guys have ever heard of Moat, Moat actually is just a voice recorder, basically, is what it is. And it doesn't have the video that Flip does. It's just your voice. So kids can record on Moat. They can upload right to Wakelet. This is great if you have Chromebooks, because it's really, really friendly with the Google extension. And so that way your kids can automatically copy and paste the link right into their Wakelet collection. And then it'll have that audio recording right there for them, and the kids can hear each other.
Be really cool for reading stories, fluency collection. There's tons of things that you could probably use it for.
The other thing that I really like about this too is that it actually it does dictate out what is being said, so you don't have to actually listen to it. You could actually have it read back to you because it does all the captions for you live.
That's a game changer. And sometimes it's really good just to have kids read something and not be distracted by all the how's my hair look? And I want a pink screen and I want this emoji.
Yes.
I love it. I love the creativity, but sometimes you just want it to just get done whatever that thing is. And so I really like that integration.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Speaking of new, if you have not checked out Gimkit's new creative, it is going to be the next big thing. Gimkit has launched creative, which if you're not sure what that is, kids are now able to go on and create their own worlds and own maps right within Gimkit. So all those challenges that we've done with Gimkit before, now the kids
the
can
zombies and the ice balls and so good.
So, but it goes back to what you said before. It's not going to serve any purpose for a kid to go on to Gimkit, create this amazing world, and then it just sits there.
No one's got to play it, right?
No one's going to play it. So how do we bring all that together?
Wakelet.
That's right, Wakelet. You can copy the hyperlinks that share out those worlds, drop them into a Wakelet collection, and now your whole class can battle against each other at the same time. They can be collaborative, or maybe you want to just take turns and go to different worlds.
Like a brain break for each day of the week. And I wonder, could you put the Gimkit in Wakelet and embed it onto an LMS too?
Probably.
That'd be really cool.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Nice.
So there you go. Now you've just streamlined the whole thing, right? There we go. Nice. Next up, Genially. We love Genially. Genially is a great way to create these really interesting graphics and
interactive, right?
Interactive, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so there's lots of different opportunities for kids to create on there.
Yeah, if you've never checked it out, you need to check it out. I mean, there's from slides to escape rooms to games to, we did a chutes and ladders. I mean, there's a lot to take in. So this is just a very simple slide that we actually did. I think it was like right at the beginning of COVID, and parents couldn't come into the building. We were like, how are we going to share all of these things? And it was really successful because it was eye-catching. It, let people in. It was easy to update. If I messed something up, I could change the Genially, even though it was already linked somewhere else. So if this is something new that you haven't checked out, check it out.
And it's really, really simple because all this was it was a smart embed, right? You can see that there's things moving within that embed right within Wakelet. That's because it's actually taking that hyperlink and it's treating it as that live embed. So when you paste it, the movements and the elements and the animations are all still there. And if you were to go back and edit this, it'll actually populate on its own. You don't have to go back and repaste that.
And I love live embeds because let's just be real. Kids like things that move and that are interactive and eye-catching. And not that images are bad, but when you can have something that's in a live embed, it just adds a little bit of more of an engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really, really quick and easy. And plus, like you said before, it keeps those live embeds going. Next up, we have Jamboard. We know that there's a lot of Jamboard fans out there. And, when it comes to Jamboard, every student that's using one of your devices can have access to a Jamboard. But again, how do we get what they're working on back into one place so that we can, as educators, see what they're all doing? Well, that's where Wakelet comes in. You can create a Wakelet collection and have your students submit their work on a Jamboard right to Wakelet. This is done quite easily because all they have to do is save it as either a PNG file or I think they can just take the link and they can drop the link right into it. But screenshot.
They'll find a way to get it there.
Yeah, I like uploading it as a picture because then you have the option to actually blow it up a little bit bigger and you can see it that way. But tough math problem there. Who laid out the cookies? Oh my goodness,
that's definitely you.
I don't know about that.
Yes, that's his weakness, cookies.
Now, we've gone through a lot of integrations, but there are two that really stick out to us throughout all of these, and that's Book Creator and Canva. And there's a reason why these stick out to us.
Creation,
creativity. Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay. Right? Which root word do you want? Come on. Students are building, students are creating, and both of these integrations are ones that we use in our own classroom, and they just tie in beautifully with Wakelet. And
so what we mean by this is that our students don't have to really go elsewhere to find these tools. Now Wakelet works really closely with these two specific tools to provide ways for our kids to create all those good things. So let's talk about those book creators up first. Now in Book Creator, you can start off by brainstorming, kind of like we talked about before, just launching the thinking behind what might go into a particular book, right? Collect those ideas, curate that information, brainstorm, think about what needs to go on into your book. And that's exactly what happened here. My students went about looking for information, dumped it all onto Wakelet, pulled out the important details, and then rewrote the books on Book Creator.
Because, when you get older, we call it paraphrasing, and we talk a lot about taking information that doesn't belong to us, citing sources. And so I don't know if you have that later, I don't want to ruin your fire, but when you have something already curated and then you go with a 7-year-old and you try to talk about, copyright and use of things, you can even add that Wakelet at the end of your book creator and be like, look here's where I did my research, and then I paraphrased and I created my book the way I wanted, and at the end, here's where I got all my information from. And yes, is it like MLA, like APA format? No, but they're 6 and 7, 8, 9. Like, it's teaching them just to start being mindful of like where they got their information from and who it belonged to and how they give credit for that. And then as they get older, it makes much more sense, and they actually have to like cite a source or
and they understand.
Remember how many kids have done a research project and at the end they're like, oh, I didn't save all the places I went. Like, because they're not already thinking in that way.
Exactly. You can kind of see the emotion, the reactions too. A lot of the kids actually use that thumbs up reaction because they found similar information. So there was that tip again. Next up, we have.
Oh, look at those cute babies!
If you're looking,
all right,
if you're looking for yearbooks,
right? These are my kids, and so. Okay, so a little plug about Book Creator. If you haven't used it, you need to go in because they have tons of templates like already done. And I love letting my kids create from scratch, but I've learned over the years that unfortunately in a lot of today's classrooms, creativity is like we're losing it because our kids are getting so accustomed to just, what do I need to do? How many pages? How many sentences? Tell me and I'll do it. And so when you give them a blank anything, they kind of panic. And so Book Creator has tons of great templates, and one of them, it was a yearbook. And I was thinking like, well, this is really cool. My kids are going to love making their own yearbook and putting things in, but like, they don't have any pictures. Like, I take all the pictures. I take all the videos. And so we were talking one night, and I was like, oh my gosh, drop into Wakelet. Drop all the pictures and all the things that I have into Wakelet. They can go through the Wakelet and find the images and things they needed and just add it to their Book Creator book. And it was really cool. It was really neat.
And they could do their own. It doesn't even have to be like a class one, right?
No.
They could create their own. Take those pictures from Wakelet and then save the ones that they want for their book, drop into Book Creator.
Yeah, it was just a neat way because I could curate. I had the curation of all the stuff, right? So it just was a neat way for those two to work together. And then they could even bring their yearbooks back and link them back to that Wakelet or a different collection, to show the finished product.
Yeah. Now, we love using Book Creator with Wakelet because it has so many different possibilities. But here's a perfect example of how we set it up with text features, right? The kids were going about looking for different text features. And then once they figured out what those text features were using Wakelet, they dropped that into Book Creator and made books out of it, including all those different text features. So for example, you'll see here in the video that we were looking for information on brachiosauruses, and we were looking brachiosaurus. Is that how you say it?
I think it's
Brachiosaurus. Brochliosaurus.
Yeah, good thing you're 6-year-olds.
Anyways, the 6-year-olds tell me the right way to say it.
They're just speaking like whatever. Just keep going.
Anyways, whatever they're called, the dinosaurs. They go on and they find the different types of text features that are there, and they make sure to add those to their final finished product. And so this was really, really cool.
And as a reading teacher, I think it's important. What I really like about this is that like, oftentimes kids can rattle off, like I'll just say text features because you're using that example, what they are, but like how to actually use them. So what you're doing is like when you read and you have a mentor text and like you look at your mentor text as an example for what you're writing, or in the same way, the kids are putting on like solid examples of what that standard is and then using those to create their own. They're not just creating their own out of thin air or out of because that's a really high thinking skill. This is to take information, then to reorganize it, put it into a space with a text feature. So they have those examples there to remind me like, oh, okay, when I have a caption, it looks like this and the letters are this size under this picture or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like having that solid example there. I don't know. I just think it's important. And in addition to just curating it.
Yeah. Well, but back to that though. So this was announced about a month or so ago. This is where it all comes together because, again, if they create that book and it just lives in your library, that's great. But now what? So now you can take those links, drop those links into a shared Wakelet collection, and the books will appear right within the Wakelet collection.
Right in Wakelet.
Yeah. And so look at that. It's so cool, right? You don't even have to actually like open up.
You're like creating your own class library. Like
exactly,
what a cool brain break. Like, oh, I'm done early. Cool. Go read your friend's books. Oh, I love it.
It's so simple, right? You just copy that link and you paste it right onto there, and then it opens it right in. That's how well these two.
And I need just to say this, like we're going to talk here in a minute about Canva and Wakelet, but some people just need to know this too. Canva also integrates into Book Creator. So that's why these books look so amazing is because they're also using that Book Creator Canva integration to design some really, really cool things.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about Canva and Wakelet. Canva and Wakelet are a really, really great pair because the kids can add that creativity elements right into their Wakelet collections. And so here what we're doing is, as a teacher, we're going to create a simplified collection. Now, the reason why I say it's important to do this, and I know it's easy just to create a collection, throw a title on there and call it a day, but when you work with little kids, they're going to look at the picture before they probably look at the words. And so if they look and they say, oh, this is the collection that has all the books on it, I'm in the right spot. They're going to know that they need to be where they need to be simply based on what they see, right? So it's just a tip there. You want to make sure you add those pictures on there. You can see it just took a second, right?
Accessibility. It's just really important. We don't always know what it's like to view learning from a student's perspective. And, our son views things very differently. And so watching him and the way he processes things, that's 100%. He won't even read the words. He won't even be able to tell you if there's words on the page, but he'll know because of the books. And so any of those times, we often as teachers, I shouldn't say teachers lately, maybe in the last 10 years, I don't know, we've gotten so into how things look and how pretty things look and how aesthetically appealing they are. But we often sometimes forget the real purpose in our classrooms is accessibility and learning. And so, yes, we want things to look nice, but we also want them to be usable, right? So that looks nice, but it's also giving that scaffolding of hey, here's my reading class.
Exactly. Yeah. Now you might be saying to yourself, okay, that's awesome, but now what do I put on my collection? Well, that's where this comes in, right? If you have presentations ready in Canva, like the one you're looking at right now, you can simply take that, copy that smart embed link, and then paste that. And then you have your embedded Canva presentation right within Wakelet. And that's really neat because it's a live embed as well.
And I use this, and I didn't realize, and maybe I should have, but I didn't realize that it was a live embed. And we did a project where I created a Canva slide, and I teach a little bit older kids. So we had a picture, and then on the template, it had synonyms, antonyms, we had different things that we were trying to extract by looking at the picture and describing it. And I didn't realize that if I just shared that link, everything I did after that fact, when I shared the template, it would still change. And so you could put this in, you could have your kids go in, you could go in and edit it and as a class and just have it as class resources. And as you're done, it edits. But I don't know why I didn't know that. I just thought when I created a Canva and I sent it, it was set, and it's not.
I don't know why you didn't know that either.
I don't know, but it was so many more opportunities now.
Speaking of opportunities, let's talk about ways that students can use Canva and Wakelet. Now, here we have an example where kids are creating book bumper stickers. If you think you know this book, drop it into the comments. I'm curious to see if anybody knows
I already
this.
know. You always use the same one. If you've ever watched us before, you would know this.
Anyway, so here the kids are going about making bumper stickers that go along with the book that we were reading, and this is all done right out of Wakelet. So the kids are on a Wakelet collection. They launch that Canva integration, and then they create a book bumper sticker to go along with it, and then they paste it, or not paste it, they submit it, I guess, they post it, and then it's right there for the class to see, and they can share their work. It's pretty amazing.
Now, just asking, when you post something, can they go back in and edit it, or do they have to go back to their Canva? How would that work?
I think once they post it, I think it's done.
Yeah.
I think, although, I was playing with it yesterday on Book Creator, and it actually let me edit it, which was weird.
So they can't edit it within the Wakelet. They'd have to go back to the
if somebody knows the answer to that, drop it in the comments, because I'm not sure.
Those are the kinds of questions we usually have to figure out as we're working. Oops, I messed up. How do I do it? And most often you don't necessarily always have to delete it. They might be able to get back in and fix that.
Mood boards. There's a great idea for picking up strategies for younger kids and trying to figure out what what characters are feeling. And so this is a template that we've shared where the kids log on to the template. They download that template, open it up in Canva, and then share it out right within Wakelet. And this book is also another very popular book, if anybody knows this one.
Oh, it's Corduroy.
Corduroy, good job.
It is Corduroy. I just want everyone to know, speaking of picture books, it was on Jeopardy the other night, and I got all of the boxes of the famous picture books. So I always will take your challenge. You could also do this in the older groups. I've done Polaroids, and I've used the fun Canva, what are they called, where you can drop the picture in the frames. And I've done the Polaroid frames, and usually I give my kids the template because I want them to focus on the actual learning of what they're doing. And then they can drop I've done Polaroids, I've done bulletin boards where the kids like tack things that the character might have on their bulletin board. It's all the same kind of idea, right? But the ability here to share it out is great.
And again, we're doing the Smart Embed link here. So by copying that Smart Embed and then pasting it, if the kids do make any edits, they can always have that automatically populate so they don't have to go back and change that again. Here's another really great example. This was another book that we like to read.
And it's a template. And I just want to show people this. Like when you're dealing with 6-year-olds, like it's okay to like say, start here, right? Like you doesn't have to stay that way, but then they're not worried. And of course, enemy pie. This is enemy pie.
Yeah, and so the kids were creating a recipe based on what they thought a good friend would look like. And so the kids just really quickly logged onto a Wakelet collection and then popped out that Canva integration, designed right there within that frame, and then submitted their work right there for everybody else to see. Pretty amazing.
I love it.
Yeah. Now, we always like to leave everybody with a level up idea. And so this was an idea that we were kind of stewing on, and we want to make sure we shared it with you guys because there's so many opportunities here for Wakelet to work with other apps, but these 3 apps together just really, really resonate with us very well. And so what if you started a collaborative writing assignment on Wakelet where your kids are using Wakelet, they're designing all the brainstorming thinking, and they drop that in there, and then maybe they use Canva, and then they add it to Book Creator.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to do this very broadly. He loves to give like super specific examples. And I really want it to be broad because I feel like everyone teaches writing differently, but you could use this for pre-writing. You could use this as you're writing and you get stuck about like your plot line and like how it's going to go. Like, but just this idea of how kids can help each other revise and edit their work is so powerful. So
Right.
Flip it over.
So
All right.
here's what that looks like.
Okay, so this is an example, and some of them are a little silly, but I won't go into the whole unit and everything we were doing, but we were talking about like characters, and if you could create, okay, so we're at Disney World. It had to do with Disney World and Disney characters and movies, and I was like, okay, if you could create your own superhero, what would their power be? How would they get it? Why would they have it? And this was just more of like a journal prompt. It wasn't necessarily like a whole story. But then they had to use inside Canva the AI. And I know that's like a scary, it's a scary word. Lots of people don't like to talk about it, but they use the text to image and they typed in like girl who shoots fire. The one on the left, the little boy he's obsessed with turtles. So just own it. Okay. Turtle playing baseball, whatever. And it created these images for them, for their superheroes. But it was really cool because then it gave them something to like visualize. So they've created this whole concept in their head. Then they're able to like visualize it. But then we were talking like, oh my gosh, how cool would it have been if this somehow had been incorporated on a Wakelet? Because then whether they're like, cool, this is my character, and the kids are giving descriptions of the character for them to use. Or maybe they're putting in plot line, and they put the character in and they say her problem is this, and the kids give ideas on what could happen in the story. You could totally make it as advanced as you wanted. Like, okay, I'm learning about, I don't know, past participles, whatever. Like, put 3 of those under that your students have to work in. Like, and then they could create their story in
Wakelet. Or Book Creator,
and then put it back in Wakelet. So like we were like, oh my gosh, there's so many ways that you could use those 3 apps throughout that whole process and allow creation, creativity, student revision, collaboration, the authenticity of sharing it. Like it was really neat. And so we just felt like we needed to add it at the very end.
Yeah. So
you're welcome for that. That's my beige flag right there.
So there's so many different ways you can use Wakelet, and we hope that by now you've seen some of those ways, and maybe you've thought to yourself, like, I'm already doing some of those things in my classroom now. This would be cool if I tried it this way. There's lots of ways you can use Wakelet. We like to share this slide out a lot because it does demonstrate the power of what is possible with Wakelet. And so here you can see that there's many different options, and these aren't them all. Some of these can even be mixed up a little bit. Like, for example, you could be using, Flip. Well, I guess Flip is on there twice. But anyways, you can mix them all up.
There's so many. We don't have Genially on here. Like, there's so many different ones that you could pick, which is the idea that, like, oh, I bet something I'm using could integrate with Wakelet in some way.
Exactly. So hopefully by now, like I said, you've found some way to enhance your classroom. And if you have, please let us know because we would love to see what you're doing. We are at the Merrils EDU, 2 R's, 2 L's because there's 2 of us.
You already said that. Come on, dad jokes.
In case you didn't know.
Yes, please connect with us. We just love teaching and we love just being connected with other teachers, and we love learning from other teachers and helping other teachers and all of the things. And so we'd love to see what you do with these apps and get inspiration from you. And hopefully you've taken away some nugget of inspiration from our presentation today.
And the best part about Wakelet Community Week is that we get to meet all these different educators from all over the world. There's not another opportunity for us to do that anywhere else. And so this is a really unique opportunity for us. So thank you to Wakelet and our friends for having us. We really appreciate it. And we just look forward to connecting with everybody else.
I can't wait to see what everyone else shares this week.
Yeah. So look at the comments. What do we got? So let's see.
We have Syria and Egypt, and it looks like,
wow,
Stevie. Hi, Stevie.
Hi, Stevie.
You guys are getting lots of comments and lots of love in there. And just to fill you in, while you were doing that, I was checking on a Wakelet collection. So when I publish a design inside of one of my own collections, I can click the edit button and I can go back in and revise. Now, I'm not sure if I'm a student inside of a collaborative collection, if that still works. But I know I can go back in and make multiple revisions. I tried it 3 times.
Great,
oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I got the answer for you too. Just some great things. Like as a former elementary principal, like you had my heart fluttering the entire time with just the idea of like the lesson planning and the idea of combining, people who aren't tech centric and the people who are maybe a little hesitant to adopt things, but having that great space where everybody can combine. That really made me think of another avenue with our students. And you talked about this too, is, giving students the opportunity to get to the resources quicker, because we know, and something I say all the time is every added click for a student is an opportunity for them to get lost. And that just shortens up the ability for students to get there. So many things that I took away. Gimkit Creative and Wakelet blew my mind. That's fantastic. I wrote that down. I see what I'm doing later today. And just the fact that, like if you're doing something for completion, students just do it and get it done. Right. But when they know there's an intended audience and they know that you're looking, they're going to iterate. They're going to talk about it. They're going to move and make the changes. And you hit the nail on the head so well. So I just, again, my heart fluttered every time you talked about it. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Ryan. We really appreciate the opportunity.
And we need to make sure that we get the link working, and we'll add it to the list of Wakelet resources. I saw when we signed up, they had like a resource section, and make sure that gets on there.
I think it was already on there, but if not, let us know.
We'll like re-put it on there.
Yeah, we'll fix it for you guys.
Yeah. Or just reach out to us and we'll send it to you.
Perfect. Well, just a reminder, thank you to Joe and Kristen for sharing. That was an amazing session. I know I'll be watching this one back on my own time just to make sure I can catch up with everything. Remember about the competition, so feel free to keep those tweets and social media posts coming. Use the hashtag Wakelet Community Week 2023. Make sure you just hashtag Wakelet Community Week. Make sure you tag at Wakelet. The next session coming up is at 3:30 Eastern time. So just in about 45 minutes, Wakelet and friends present the magic of ed tech, and check out our new community section.
Yeah, that new community section is awesome. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to connect with everybody there.
Oh, great. All right.
Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We are excited, and we'll see how you use all of our learning shared during today's session.
Bye, guys. We'll see you.